Yeah, and honestly, I'll train like when it comes like on individual athlete basis.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna approach every single session according to that athlete. I mean, there's some athletes who I'm super high energy with,
Mm-hmm.
and we're yelling, we're screaming, we're banging plates around, and because that's what the energy that athlete needs to get to the next level. Whereas some other guys, they're more chill, they're more reserved, and so we're quiet. We talk about stuff. I mean, shoot, man, we'll even talk about life's greatest lessons,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they need. They need, you know, in that lifting session, this it's just playing a part in their overall game, and
Mm-hmm.
so sometimes my role becomes more than just to help them with their lifts. It becomes, help them maybe see a little bit more clearly or give them a different perspective on life.
Welcome to Q's Health and Wellness Podcast, your source for living a healthier lifestyle and developing a better mind, body, and soul. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful fitness gurus, athletes, and individuals who are passionate about enhancing all aspects of life, we provide you with the tools to help you take your lifestyle to another level. And now your host, Quinn Mitchell.
Welcome to Q's Health and Wellness Podcast. This is your host, Quinn Mitchell. Today I have a very special guest. Connor Barber is a strength and performance coach, and I would say one of the most precise strength and performance coaches I've ever seen. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, Quinn. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So for people that's not familiar with you, would you mind giving a brief introduction about yourself?
Yeah, so I honestly, so my background's a little different than probably most strength and performance coaches. A lot of strength performance coaches probably have a background in exercise physiology and or kinesiology or something of that realm. My background is actually in chemical engineering, so I have a very heavy engineering background. Was doing training for a number of years while going to school and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. I've been fortunate to have had just an immense amount of experience and opportunities to work with some high level athletes, including Mari Stoudemire, Mark Chalmers, Shabazz Napier, Jalil Okafor, and Norris Cole. So something that I've just like I said, been very fortunate to have had these opportunities, and at the same time learn from very very smart people and apply my understanding of or apply what I've learned from my engineering background and applying that to the human body to better understand people's biomechanics and how it should be, how people should be training, how the knee should be moving, how the hips should be moving, shoulders, every little detail, every little part of the body, how that should be moving. So that's kind of where I fit in, is in terms of my background and how I've been able to be successful so far.
No, that's awesome, my man. So what really got you like introduced or inspired to be a fitness or even a performance and strength coach?
Yeah. So I think most of my background. So I've been lifting honestly since I was 11. Having two
Mm-hmm.
brothers who played college sports, like it's been ingrained in me in my entire life, and even through high school when I was playing basketball, I was probably my junior senior year. I really kind of thought like how can I optimize my body? How can I take my body to another level? What does it mean to optimize my body? I was a fairly athletic kid. Um, Definitely not the most athletic kid, but I would say fairly decent. Able to play, sports all year round. But I wanted to take it to another level, and I wanted to learn how to take it to another level. And so, kind of that inner drive is kind of what I think inspired me to take it there.
Mm-hmm. Nah, that's awesome, my man. And I know you have a lot of clients being out in Ohio. So is there a common like obstacle that you see with your clients, whether it's not taking the training seriously or is it time management? What would you say is like one obstacle that you've seen with all of your clients?
So one of the biggest areas where I think clients who past, present, future, and I know because I know they're going to have it in the future. And this doesn't just go for general population clients, but this also goes for athletes. Is taking the work that happens outside the gym more seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're in the gym, there's that level of attention to detail, and for the most part, like I've had very very few clients who have not taken the work that we've done inside the gym very seriously. But when we start talking about some of those things that happen outside the gym that, I'm not able to be there for, whether it be the nutrition, sleeping habits, corrective stretching, and things of that nature, things that need to be performed on a daily basis, honestly. And when those things are done and taken care of, like the progress any client has is just leaps and bounds above what would be if they didn't do those things.
Gotcha. And if you don't mind, would you mind just talking about those things? Because I know when I was in college, like my sleeping habits and my recovery wasn't like I would work out multiple times a day, but my recovery wise, I just wouldn't really recover. Like I wouldn't go get ice on my knees, or I wouldn't take the recovery part seriously. Could you just talk about that just a little bit for the listeners that are listening, how serious recovery is?
Yeah. So as far as some of that recovery work goes, I mean, first thing to start off right off the bat is after a training session, you need to get that proper nutrition in, and that's going to include some carbs. That's going to include some protein and some fats. And this isn't just like, all right, I throw in two scoops of protein and throw some gummy worms down, I'm good to go. Like, and that's real. That's what they're doing. That's so many. Whether it's Gen Pop or whether it's these athletes, they do that. And shoot, when I was uneducated, I did that. And but no, instead, like get some chicken, get grilled chicken, get some lean beef, get some white rice, sweet potatoes, things of that nature. Have a ton of greens. That's one thing that's honestly from my lifting over the last probably 2 to 3 years has dramatically improved, and my ability to stay healthy and do more has dramatically improved just because I get my greens in. Like that's you hear it all your life, and then you're like, oh wow, this makes a big difference, and I notice it. Not and specifically energy levels. Like I don't feel like I need 5 cups of coffee, 6 cups of coffee throughout the day. Like it's not one of those things that you're just going to notice right overnight. It's one of those things that over the course of 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to be like, hey, I got a little bit more energy today. And it's just like natural energy. So, taking that seriously, tracking your food, if we want to be better in the weight room, we track, how many, what's the weight we put up that week. If we want to be a better basketball player, we track, how many makes did I make out of so many shots. We track those things. So we should track food as well. Track food, track your sleep, making sure we're getting anywhere from about 6 or 7 to 8 hours every night. And, honestly, it's gonna, the more boring your routine is, the better it is. Because it's going to be so monotonous day after day after day, but that's what's going to get that continuous progress. Going to bed at 9, waking up at 5 or 6, every day.
And so it's crazy that you say that, because I know my routine, like my sleeping habits, even when I was in college, I would go to sleep at 2, 3 in the morning. And during the season, I don't know, you tell me if I'm wrong. I feel like that really affected me playing wise, performance wise, and helping my body with injury wise as well, because I really felt like when I woke up and I was doing so much training, but I would go to sleep at 2, 3 in the morning on the phone. Then I would wake up at 5 to go train. Like that, I feel like that kind of caught up to me later in my career.
Yeah, it will, because you're not going to have the mental capacity and the mental awareness to, take your workouts as seriously. Where you're putting up maybe in a shooting session, you're putting up maybe 500 shots. You can't tell me that every one of those 500 shots on 3 hours of sleep you're locked in on. No, heck no. And that's where we talk about, when we're in the weight room. I have a guy who, it's like, hey, we're looking at our numbers, and it's like, all right, last week you hit, 225 on your deadlift. This week we're looking to hit, 245, 255 type. And he's not locked in. He struggles to even touch 225 for, half the reps that we wanted him to hit. So it's like, those things add up, and they play a huge role. So, and just for myself, like I know it's like if I have a bad week, I can pinpoint exactly where I went wrong the week before. And
And another thing I want you to touch on too is the importance of a routine, because I learned later in my career, and like when I was a junior in college, just waking up at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., going to shoot and have that structure within my routine, that really made a difference in my lifestyle and my overall lifestyle. So could you just talk about that a little bit? Because I know there's people that just do things when they feel like it, rather than having a structured routine of doing things, whether it's hitting the weight room at a certain time or it's getting shots up at a certain time. Would you
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so like just let's just look at it from a lifting perspective. So when I have when I have guys coming in during the season, or let's just look at the off season, just because that's where we're looking to make the most progress to their game. Um, so we have certain days dedicated to a type of lifting. We have a heavy lower body day. And then we have a speed lower body day. A lot of those things are my programming methods are based off of West Side barbell conjugate method, and it works time and time again. But learning to have a structure to it. So let's just say an athlete wants to improve his balance. All right, a basketball player wants to improve his balance. Okay, well, is he jumping off one leg or is he jumping off two legs when he usually goes up for a shot or goes up for going towards the rim? If he's going off one leg, we're gonna put heavy emphasis on single leg movements, a lot of lunges, step ups, single leg RDLs, and that sort. And then from there, we prioritize those movements that are going to carry over to the game quickest, or have the highest transfer. And then from there, we're going to have movements and exercises that are going to supplement those exercises. So if we look at we look at a lunge, all right, we're using those glutes, hamstrings, quads, and at the same time trying to maintain an upright body. So we'll have exercises where we maybe put a little bit more emphasis on those hamstrings. We may have an exercise that something as like simple as wall sits to emphasize the isometric portion of your quads, and that's so we have those bigger lifts where we're trying to really kind of grind it and really trying to have some huge numbers on. And then we're going to have some of those smaller lifts where, all right, this is going to help us out in this area. So having that structure so that we can make progress from week to week and from one training block to the next is vital, honestly. And then like you talk about having more structure to shooting. I mean, maybe one day you're focusing on just hitting that corner three and hitting it from every angle, learning to get it off, catch and shoot, 1 or 2 dribbles, catch shot going up, hand in your face, getting it up, getting that make, you learn to nail it over and over and over. And so your 500 shots for that day are literally from that right corner. So I'm sure you have that same structure, but when you focus so hard on some of those things, then you learn to be kind of a specialist in those areas, and and then you just do this over and over and over time, and you can add more things, one more thing here, one more thing there. We worked on the lunge for so long, and we have it carried over to a really high single leg jump. Well, now we're going to learn to expand it and hit maybe like 45-degree angle lunge. So we're hitting this lunge from a different angle, or we're doing a side lunge. And so that, we're still strong off one leg, but now we've learned to apply this single leg strength, in lateral quickness, defensive slides, that sort of stuff. So having that structure is going to be huge, especially when we talk about, what sort of progress do we want to make? If we just go at it aimlessly, I mean, I actually heard a really good quote on this today. Random workouts equal random results. So, this is where you have that structure. You can predict what you're gonna be able to achieve, what you're gonna be able to accomplish. You just go at it like randomly. I mean, man, you might as well roll dice to see if you're gonna get anything.
No, definitely, man. And one thing I love about you, Connor, is that you've broken down the human body to a point where if somebody comes to you and saying they're having pain or they want to work on this, you know exactly what to do and how to do it. So what the question I have for you is, what inspired you or really because I know your background is in biomechanics, but is there someone that really inspired you to really start taking that seriously, and start helping others really with actually breaking down the body and working on those little things, those little details, let's say?
Um, I don't know if there's any one person who inspired me. If I had to say there was maybe a person who really helped me in taking that to my understanding of that to another level, it would be Donnie Raymond. So I worked along Donnie Raymond while I was with DBC Fitness down in Miami, Florida, and that guy is just on another level when it comes to understanding the human body. And like I appreciate the praise, but I don't even feel like I touched even a quarter of his knowledge, just because he understands the body just so well, and he's someone I still talk to from time to time just to kind of get some perspective if I'm maybe stumped on something or I'm just just want an outside opinion or outside someone to take a look from a different lens. So he definitely helped me tremendously in understanding how the body functions in almost every way, shape, and form.
No, that's awesome, man. And one thing I want to ask you, because me being a college basketball player, or a former college basketball player, I should say, I know there's a lot of things. Even when I was in high school, there was a myth called never lift during the season, let's say. So, what are your thoughts on that? Because I've heard everything. Like, I've heard coaches saying if you lift during the season, it throws off your shot. If you bench press, you'll start shooting over the backboard. Like, you hear all these crazy things, but I never really, let's say, I never really have seen those things happen to me, let's say, but I know that if a player starts getting this advice, it can get to them mentally, and then you actually start to think it's messing with your shot. So, what is your opinion on that?
So when it comes to that, again, it goes back to what kind of program are you running? Are you running a program to where you're burning yourself out during all these lifts, and so you feel weak on your shot? Therefore you're feeling weak on your shots because you're not able to put that energy that you need to have for your practice, for your games, and you're not able to have that energy there because it's all that energy is being spent in the gym. So don't get me wrong, like lifting is extremely important for during the season, and just to maintain a level of strength, because there's a lot of endurance work done on the court, and so there needs to be some sort of strength work that needs to be done to maintain that level of strength. That we're not looking to make any big changes by any means. We're just learning. When I have kids learning or athletes training during the season, I'm looking for just their mechanics. I'm looking for everything just to be solid, and I want them to be able to hit basically within 5 to 10% of their numbers, their strength numbers, in the off season. I'm not looking to improve at all. I'm just looking to keep mechanics and to make sure that, when aside from that, making sure that they have strength in their core, functionality in their shoulders, and keeping focusing on mobility as well. So, you hit all those things, and the amount of shooting you do is going to should by far overmatch the amount of strength work you do.
No, that's awesome.
And that's the other thing. It's like, you're not adding weight every week. You're not looking to make PRs. You're not looking to just throw around heavy weight. You're just looking to, maintain your strength. Nothing more.
And that's one of the biggest things I think. A lot of even performance coaches, I think they don't really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they don't really, it's not that they don't know this, but they don't really teach it, because even when I was in school, there have been times when I would be lifting crazy heavy, and my performance coach wouldn't say nothing to me. He'll just watch me. Performance coaches don't have this knowledge.
To be honest, that's a great question. It's a question I've kind of asked myself, and so it's kind of one of those things where, something I'd like to probably get into more and figuring out why exactly that is. If I had to base it off of just my own intuition, I'd probably say that that they haven't experienced it themselves. I'm gonna say a lot of these performance coaches haven't experienced it themselves in terms of playing at a high level of whatever sport it may be, and lifting at the same time. And especially with basketball, I mean, shoot, I mean, lifting even in basketball has only really starting to grow over the last 20 years. And shoot, I mean, even back when MJ played, it was not big. You didn't lift. It wasn't. He didn't really start lifting until, I mean, what was it, the second or third time he got beat by the Pistons, and wanted to be stronger and bigger and whatnot. And I mean, let's just look at the facts. He didn't win any rings before, but he won rings after he lifted. Like, you know. So if you really want to talk about, you know, messing up your game, it's bogus. Because there's just going to be so much work put on the court, especially with regards to how much weight, you know, how much time you spend in the weight room during the season. Like, you know, you hit, let's just say you have 2 games in a week, 2-3 games in a week. All right. You're getting probably 2 or 3 practices in that week. No more than 3 weightlifting sessions. And honestly, when we look at those weightlifting sessions, we're definitely not going over 45 minutes any of the sessions. You know, we're probably hit right around 30, just get some general strength in, get some basic work in, just making sure that, you know, every athlete understands their mechanics and making sure that they're applying those when they're on the court, and just kind of almost just like a small tune-up.
Got you. Now, I know we talked previously before we started recording, just about the mechanics and how you dig deeper into paying attention to how athletes jump while they're working out and the importance of doing different jumps. So could you just dig into that a little bit? Because I know not a lot of athletes even know about that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that's honestly is growing every year is the number of non-contact ACL tears. And when we look at the exact mechanism in which those ACL tears are occurring, it's very predictable in terms of, or at least it's very obvious when it happens. And when we look at guys it's happened to in the NBA, and I use the NBA just because, I mean, we all see it. All right, we don't always see every college game, but most of us do see when the big injuries happen in the NBA, and especially when it's an ACL tear. But if we look at, you know, that knee, every time a player goes down and we look at that video footage right beforehand and we see that knee, and, you know, we got slightly bent knee or maybe a fully bent knee, and then we got like internal rotation. So basically, you know, if this bottom half is basically like my shin bone area, all right, and this top portion is my thigh, all right, when we have it rotating inwards like that, it's gonna, right in between here is where that ACL kind of connects. And so as you can see, when we do that, we just kind of corkscrew it off, right? So that's where some of those things are huge when it comes to understanding the mechanics and looking at when a kid or athlete, whatever, is doing that single leg movement. It's like, all right, you know, we see that single leg movement and they're kind of leaning towards that way. You know, they're not doing it exactly right. You know, when they go down that single leg and everything's not lined up perfectly, it's rotated one way or it's rotated another way. We can, you know, from there, we can just kind of figure out, all right, like this muscle's a little overactive. You know, and that could be where it's just an imbalance of strength, or it could be a tightness issue. And this is where, you know, assessing athletes is so important. Understanding, you know, their range of motions in the knees and their hips and everything like that are critical. So, you know, when it comes to training these athletes, we gotta understand that, all right, this is how the knee is supposed to move. And, you know, from there, if it's not moving the correct way, then that's kind of where we kind of, you know, write down our list, say, all right, here are some possible reasons why that knee isn't moving the right way. And just kind of, honestly, just kind of, you know, just kind of picking, or kind of, what do I want to say? Just process of elimination when it comes to why it's doing it the right way. And, you know, what can we add in? What exercises can we add in just to, you know, slightly supplement that athlete's routine to help him move better. And that's where training becomes extremely individualized, because there's so many. I mean, there's a lot of commonalities with basketball players, but also from player to player, there's so many differences.
No,
And so
definitely.
that's where training becomes extremely individualized.
Now I know even when I was playing, I used to look up for these different programs. Like when I remember in high school, I did Air Alert, try to know how to jump higher.
Okay,
And all these programs are just generalized, right? So
yeah.
what is one secret that you, if you don't mind sharing, that if a player wants to jump higher, what is one secret that they can't find anywhere else that you would share with them?
So if you want to jump higher, I mean, how do you jump? So what kind of, are you a one-legged jumper or are you a two-legged jumper? Personally for me, if I'm going up for a big jump, I'm going off two legs. There's a lot of players who are better off one leg. So I mean, just from that standpoint, are you supposed to be, if you really want to put emphasis on jumping higher, are you putting that emphasis on single leg and having your two-legged movements, squat, deadlift, and whatnot, kind of your supplement exercises, or are you flipping it around? And that's kind of how we talked about when it comes to those training regimens, whether it's on the court or was in the weight room. There has to be some sort of organization to it and some sort of plan of attack when it comes to that. So that would be the biggest thing I'd say is really think about how you jump. Think about how you jump, all right, and just break it down from there. All right, let's use an example. Let's just say we have a guy who is a big single leg jumper, jumps off his left leg and dunks it, and wants to try to dunk it with his right, and that's what most weight, that's the way he feels most comfortable with. All right, well, I'm gonna have him doing a lot of single leg movements, maybe some deficit lunges, regular lunges. If we're gonna doing some split jerks, and we get more and more explosive, where we actually, for our plyometrics, we're doing a lot of single leg movements. Whereas if I have a two-legged jumper, I'm going to prioritize squats, deadlifts. Like those are going to be the movements I prioritize if I really want to jump higher. And hang cleans, like those would be something that I would prioritize as well. And then when we get into the plyometric side of it, then that's where all my jumps, whether I'm jumping forward, backwards, side to side, are all going to be off of two legs as opposed to just one leg. So it's just if you can break down that part, honestly, I think you're ahead of probably 80, 90, maybe 99% of the industry and people who are training right now.
And it's great that you say that. I don't mean to cut you off. It's just crazy that you say that, Connor, because me, myself, I'm a 2-footed jumper, but all my, my whole career, I don't know if it was just looked down upon or because even when I literally remember when I was doing my training program, everything was single leg for me. I was not doing there was nothing specialized for 2-foot jumpers. And I'm not sure if that's not common nowadays, but I just know for me, it was always single leg, but I don't really have power off a single leg. You know what I mean?
No, I hear you, because that's the same way I am. And, and when I was trying to, when I, was doing pretty well with my jumps, it was all two-legged movements. So it's all, bilateral squat, bilateral deadlift, any sort of clean or hang clean those are all two-legged movements. I'm not doing as much. I mean, I'm still doing, don't get me wrong, I'm still doing lunges, I'm still doing single leg RDLs, but those aren't the lifts that I'm looking to put up the most weight in. Those are the lifts that are just all right, this is going to help supplement and kind of, fill in the gaps of where maybe I'm weak with my squat, where I'm weak with my deadlift, and, weak on my jump overall. These are just certain exercises that are just kind of more for, general strength purposes. So yeah, man. So when, if you're, like I said, take your game, whatever it is, whether it's jumping, whether it's, learning to jump high, whether it's being fast on the floor, and just look at your movement And then outside of that, if you can, if you have a solid grasp of physics, man, I'm telling you, you're ahead of 95% of the game. You're ahead of 95% of the game if you can look at movement and you can look at, just physics. And this is where like we could dive so deep into this, and this is something that I love talking about. It's so tough to do on a small Instagram post. And right now, like I don't. I'd love to do YouTube on it, just because we can knock out a ton. But shoot, man, editing YouTube videos is like 20-30 hours. Like especially if you want to do it well.
And like I said, I'd love to have you back on just to talk about those specific things.
Yeah.
Part 2, part 3, because
yeah, for sure.
Like I said, if I had someone like you, Connor, that's even just willing to share this information, like I would be willing just to listen to it, because I feel like some players, they're so closed-minded where if they don't get the information or if they don't see the results working for them right away, they don't want to hear it. But from somebody like me, I've always been searching. Like I've invested $90 into an error alert or something where I'm trying to find myself to get an advantage edge over somebody else. Where if I had somebody like you that's giving up this free knowledge, it's like I would love to just sit there back and listen to it, because you know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and like I've said before, like I that's how I view my social media is. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a a marketing side to it, but my main focus with it is just educating as many people as I can, as many athletes as I can. If I educate with one post, if I'm able to educate an athlete to really kind of like, wow, like I need to approach my training a little bit differently, then I'm happy at the end of the day. I've done my job, and that's where like I love teaching it. I love teaching it. I love, because it's like I know where they're at, and I know what's going on through their head, and they're just like so confused and lost, and it's just like, where's all this information? Because there's so much out there on the internet, and there's so much BS out there on the internet.
There is.
It's just like, how do I sift through the BS to find some good stuff? And I'm by no means am I the only person who's, in my opinion, giving out good information. There's a lot of people who are giving out good information out there, but there's also a ton of people who are giving out BS. And just, in my opinion, just don't really give you enough information. They're just looking to collect a paycheck at the end of the day. So, which is extremely unfortunate, because that's not how this industry should be.
And I've said that multiple times on previous episodes with guests that I've had. And it's like, if fortunate enough, I reached out to you, and me and you talked, and then we had that connection. And that's something I'm grateful for, because I know there's people, they would come on the podcast, or if they'll message me saying, oh, how much do you want to pay me? You know what I mean? So for you to even stop out your day and just give me an hour of your time, like I don't take that lightly, because I know this could be numerous things that you could be doing, but for you to sit here and talk with me and give the listeners some knowledge that they can't get anywhere else, it's like, that's something I'm really grateful for, my man.
Yeah. Like I said, man, this is, in my opinion, this is, I'm just trying to do my small part, and helping as many athletes as I can. And because I've been in that situation where it's like, man, I can't spend $100 for a training session, or I can't spend $200 for a training session with this dude. Like, I'm just, it's like, man, I thought I was giving up a lot of money when I was spending $10 a month for just some dude's training program. I was like, oh man, that's, gonna have to skip out on McDonald's for one trip. Man, like I ain't gonna be able to eat. But that's how it is. Like, and that's the part that really bothered me most when I was trying to learn, was how many people were just it just felt like trying to take your money. And like they'll give you programs, but they don't really they don't explain why you do it. I mean, and the business of training, it should be, you're so good that you are able to educate your client to the point where he doesn't need you anymore. They want you for those eyes. They want you for that, that little bit of information that it's just like, oh man, I forgot about that, because I was focusing on so many other things as well. So,
And one thing I wanted to transition on is the importance of mental health with athletes, because I know with me personally, it was a tough time even with dealing with injuries and just trying to play college sport and still trying to balance out everything. My mental health really took a toll my senior year when I had my groin injury.
Yeah.
Coming from a junior year where I was dominating all the competition and I had a groin injury, and so then it really hit me like, yeah, I can't even go out there and perform like I want to, and I
Yeah.
can't train like I want to because I'm limited. So it started to eat me alive, and it's like my senior year, and it's like everybody got all these expectations for me, and I can't go out and perform. So,
Yeah.
how important would you say is the importance of mental health now in the fitness industry, and why do you think it's not really talked about nowadays?
Um, I mean, the level of importance is just, beyond, the ability to even explain how important it is. When we think about, like, I mean, just even from, I'll use this from an objective standpoint, just, the ability to perform at the next level. If you're taking a toll from a mental health standpoint, that's usually affecting the way you perform in the weight room, on the court, your ability. Honestly, it'll affect your eating habits, whether you're eating too much or you're not eating enough.
Mm,
And it's also going to affect your sleeping habits. So, just looking at it from that standpoint alone,
mm,
where it's from a very objective standpoint, like that's huge. And then when we dive a little bit deeper, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, athletes are still human beings, and
mm,
so to not treat them as such and not to treat um, their mental health with respect and whatnot, I mean, you're just setting them up to fail, in my opinion.
mm,
And the reason it's not talked about enough, I truly believe the biggest reason is because we're men. Like, a lot of these athletes are men, and
mm,
let's be honest, men, we don't talk about our feelings,
mm,
and we're told it's like, you talk about your feelings, you're weak,
mm,
and it's still a thing today. Like, it's still a thing today. I mean, be honest, Quinn. Like, if you're about to spew some emotions to one of your buddies, how many of your buddies are you truly able to break down and just say, like, man,
mm,
I feel terrible, I feel awful,
mm,
like, I'm sad. Like, how many times, how often, or how many of your friends are you truly able to say that to, without the thought of, man, I'm gonna sound like an idiot, I'm gonna sound like a wimp, I'm gonna sound like I'm pussing out,
mm.
you
No,
know?
you're right, and it's crazy because I know we spoke about this before. We even got on the shows because a lot of times basketball for me was an escape from all of that. Like
Yeah.
people really don't realize like sometimes like a sport for somebody is for me it was my identity was in the sport. So
Yeah.
if anything was going on in my personal life, mental health wise, I would just go to the basketball court by myself 2, 3 a.m. and just shoot till I can't shoot no more. But it was just that mental sanity where
Yeah.
I can't go talk to somebody about how I'm feeling because they won't understand because
Exactly.
they don't take basketball as serious as I do. So for
Right.
me, basketball was my life.
Yeah. No, I get you 100%. Like, and I mean, shoot, man, like, I, I was so, I was upset when, I
Mm,
wasn't, getting the notice that I thought I deserved, even for, D3 or D2 colleges,
mm,
to play basketball. And, I ended up playing some club at Ohio State, but, that was nowhere near where I wanted to be with the game. But no one understood that. No one
mm,
understood that, how much the game meant to me. And it's only now that I understand, like, I wasn't recruited out of high school for the sake that, I'm playing a bigger role,
mm,
or, a role where I can be more successful, or, help more kids, help more athletes when it comes to the game of basketball, and trying to take their game to another level, and trying to further their careers or extend their careers even. I
mm,
mean, there's some of these guys who I mean who are in the league for 5, 6, 7 years, and they're calling it quits because they're injured all
mm,
the time. And having some proper training behind it, having a little bit more organization to maybe their lifting regimen, they can extend their career an extra 5 years. I mean, just even overseas contracts. I mean, some of these guys make some pretty solid money, and you talk about 5 more years of that salary. Shoot, and just even 5 more years to play basketball for a living. Shit, man. Like, I'd take it in a heartbeat. I mean, and how many players would take that in a heartbeat? So, it's just, the game of basketball, it becomes more than just a game. It's more than just a game. For some people, it's these livelihoods, and like I said earlier, it's for some people. It sounds like yourself. Like, some people, to express themselves, they'll write songs. They'll create art pieces. In this realm, basketball is your art.
And that's what I love about you, because you're a performance trainer that realizes this. A lot of people, they train their athletes, but they don't realize that this is what they do. Like, this is their identity. So when it comes to, every session you have with the client, you're bringing 120% because they're going to bring 150. So a lot of these performance trainers, they're not doing that. They just going laggy. They're just basically being basic and not bringing that effort and energy. And it's like, I've been with trainers where I've seen that. It's like, bro, you really don't get it. Like, this is what I do.
Yeah. And honestly, I'll train, like, when it comes like on individual athlete basis, I'm going to approach every single session according to that athlete. I mean, there's some athletes who I'm super high energy with, and we're yelling, we're screaming, we're banging plates around, and because that's what the energy that athlete needs to get to the next level. Whereas some other guys, they're more chill, they're more reserved, and so we're quiet. We talk about stuff. I mean, shoot, man, we'll even talk about life's greatest lessons, and that's what they need. They need, in that lifting session, this is just playing a part in their overall game. And so, sometimes my role becomes more than just to help them with their lifts. It becomes, help them maybe see a little bit more clearly or give them a different perspective on life. And that's, you have to be able to read those athletes and what they need. So each athlete is going to be different, and how you approach them will, I think, speak volumes to their comfort with you. And if their comfort with you is at a high level, then I mean, for me, I can do the stuff that I really know that they need, and not give them the stuff that they want.
And that's awesome, man. That's my last question I have for you. I don't mean to take up too much of your time.
No, you're good.
And just talking about injury prevention, because I know for me, like we spoke about already, it was something I really struggled with. I don't know if it was it's because of my lack of sleep, or because I personally hate stretching. Like, I can't stand stretching. And then when practice would come, I would literally just do a little quick stretch and get right into it. So is that something that really takes a toll on your body, or is there?
Definitely can. Yeah, it definitely can. It, some of the areas where I see, not, and this isn't a blanket statement, but this is just where I've seen a lot of commonalities with basketball players, is just tightness in their quads. And when we have tightness in the quads, so that quad muscle on that front of that thigh is directly connected to your kneecap. And so if that muscle is tight, and so we have this muscle that's like this, and it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. All right. Well, one end is connected to that kneecap. So what do you think is going to happen to that kneecap? That kneecap's going to be pulled up and up and up and up and up. And so that's where things like patellar tendinopathy comes into place, and where we have tendonitis in the knee. So
is that something like jumper's knee?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So jumper's knee. There's a bunch of different names for it, but yeah, I mean, you talk about having knee, some pain in your knees. I mean, man, that's a big area just to start off the bat, and then other things that can play, and it's when these things are happening, it's usually never just one thing that made it all happen. Usually it's a series of 4 or 5 different things that have led to, kind of that knee pain or to that injury or to whatever the issue may be that's not supposed to be happening. So, it could be, a combination when you have that knee pain could be, for me, I was having some knee pain for a little bit. And then, I had an assessment done on me. And come to find out, not only were my quads tight, and I figured my quads were tight because my knee pain, but I also found out I had some internal hip rotators in my right leg that were tight. And just once I added that stretch in with my other stretches, gone. And it's just crazy. You're just like, this is stuff I do on hundreds of people, hundreds and hundreds of people. And honestly, man, probably hundreds of athletes. And it's really cool when it happens, when you're able to get that experience. Cause it's like, man, I was stretching this, and I just add this one more stretch and it's gone. And, not to say that those other stretches weren't good. It's just, I wasn't including all the stretches that I needed. So, and that's where you just kind of, we go back to the old, saying that the body functions as one. And so all these different things are connected.
Yeah, then that's what I was just about to say. It's crazy how the body's just interconnected like that. Like,
yeah,
I remember saying if my hamstrings was hurt, they said loosen up your quads. It's just little stuff like that, and it's I never knew how important it was until I really either I was already hurt or B I was like something was hurting on me already, and then once I started stretching and started taking those things seriously, I see my body start to loosen up. So it's crazy how the body works like that.
Yeah, and then you shoot, and and then you go play on the court, and you're just like, man, there's nothing that can stop me. You guys are screwed. I was literally playing at like 50% with my knee hurting that bad, so this is gonna be fun.
No, definitely, my man. So before I let you go, I just want you to talk about your business that you have, just your clientele. So you're based out in Ohio, right?
I am. I'm based out of Columbus, Ohio. So I work at a facility called Ryze Athletics here in Columbus. A lot of my right now, being as busy as is during the basketball season, a lot of my clientele is just general population. But I honestly have a lot of general population clients who honestly I have like 3 former pro lacrosse players right now, and it's just like I don't know how I came across them, but they've been fun to work with. They're a lot of fun because they're just they're super. I mean, they still approach their training session like a pro, and that makes it a lot of fun. But I work with a lot of other general population type clients, and I always kind of like the people who have problems because it makes it kind of a game for me, or kind of a puzzle for me, so that it makes it kind of fun. But here probably next month or so, my basketball players are going to be taking up majority of my schedule. So working with them, at any level from honestly just teaching the basics to middle schoolers to really diving deep with a lot of high schoolers and college kids is kind of where the majority of my basketball players, makeup comes from. So that's kind of where I'm at currently. Taking for a couple of years there, I was doing several pros, but kind of taking a back seat for now, just because Columbus isn't necessarily a big area for pros to go to during the off season.
Yeah. So what is a typical day like for you, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm up usually 2 hours before my first training session, and I'm getting in my stretches for 20, 30 minutes, whatever. Making sure my breakfast is, like I said, keep my regimen really boring. I eat grilled chicken, either kale or spinach or a mixture of both, and then rice. And all of that is measured out. So, and then I'll go into a couple training sessions, then get my lift in. Right now, my lifts are getting pretty intense, so sometimes I even have to break them up into two smaller sessions. And then after that, I'll work on some social media stuff, try to work on some content after that, and just making phone calls and whatnot to whether it's clients or potential new clients, or just building relationships, building networks. And then I'll have a few more clients in the afternoon and evenings. And at the end of the day, or at some point in there, I'll probably also get my second training session, and then finish off the day. I'm doing some social media, but I try to save at least a couple hours for my wife. So.
Got you. And then that's awesome. And like I said, I appreciate you even chopping it up with me for the hour that we spent on here, because like I said, you're very knowledgeable and very passionate about what you do, and that's something that I really respect coming from you, because like I said, you didn't have to do this, but I just appreciate all the knowledge that you give the listeners, and all the advice that you give them as well.
Hey man, I'm very humbled by just by you wanting to learn from me, because I'll be honest, like it just I wasn't following you or anything like that. It just kind of came out of nowhere. And, just the fact that, you've looked through my content, and just from my content alone, were, inspired enough to ask me, man, that's just, it humbles me.
No, definitely, my man.
Appreciate it.
No problem. And one thing I got to ask you before I let you go is something I guess, what is something you're most grateful for?
Most grateful for? Oh man, a lot of things I'm most grateful for. Probably the number one thing I'm most grateful for is my wife. She puts up with a lot. She puts up with, and I love my business so much. I love the work that I do so much. Sometimes it cuts into our time, and she's very understanding of that. She understands my passion, and she understands that it is my passion. And she's been with me, and fighting with me, fighting sometimes against me every step of the way. But I'm very grateful for my wife.
And that's awesome, Connor. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on the show, and definitely giving us all this great advice. I would love to come out there and work with you sometime soon as well.
Yeah, man, we'd love to have you out here. Definitely. We'll definitely look forward to it.
Yes, sir. Definitely be in touch soon.
All right. See you, Quinn.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Q's Health and Wellness Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe or to leave us a review on iTunes or the listening platform of your choice. Also, please check us out at quinnmitchellii.com, as well as find us on Instagram for more useful content and resources.